Hello, Creative Gems. Welcome back to Creativity. And if you're new here, I'm Sandy. Today is going to be all about glamming up thrifted items, starting with this empty cookie tin container. This one is a pretty large one because it once held almost a whole kilogram of the most delicious butter cookies. But now that those treats are all gone, we're going to extend the life of this container by giving it a complete makeover. This container has a very smooth surface with a matching lid, but what we're going to do first is cover up the container with some mirror tiles. These are mini mirror tiles I found at the Dollarama, but you can also find them sold in rolls and sheets online. And I know many of you are going to ask me again, so make sure you check the video description box down below to links to all of my favorite crafting supplies and embellishments, including these mini mirror tiles. As you can see, these mini mirror tiles are really tiny, and when they come in sheets or rolls, they're very easy to work with because they can flex according to the round shape of this container. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out a strip of this according to the size that I need for the container. And notice how I stopped short of the opening of the container. That's because we want to make sure we leave enough room so that we'll still be able to place the lid over the container later on. Let me show you what I mean. See how when you put the lid back on, there's no mirror tiles to block it, and that's what we want. Of course, there's a tiny little gap where the original blue color of the container is exposed, but I'll show you a bit later how we'll deal with that. For now, we're going to go ahead and apply this sheet of mini mirror tiles all around the tin container. And by the way, this is self-adhesive, so all I'm doing is gradually peeling away the wax backing at the back. There's no glue involved with this at all. Now, when you're placing the rows of mini mirror tiles on the container, be careful and go slow because the mini mirror tiles are extremely sticky. So once they're on, it will be very difficult to remove. You'll want to go slow because you want to make sure the tiles are being placed flush to the bottom of the container. So that way, there are no additional gaps you'll need to deal with later. So now I have one sheet applied, and this is what the container looks like so far. I'll continue to size out and cut out more rows of mini mirror tiles, apply them onto the container, and then I'll come back to show you my progress. Okay, so we've got all the mini mirror tiles applied. It looks pretty straight except one little thing I have here that's sticking out. For some reason, the mini mirror tiles here didn't quite fit properly, and I have some that are sticking out a little bit. But I'm not too worried about that because I'll be applying a strip of this beautiful rhinestone trim here to completely camouflage that. And that will also hide the small gap we have when the lid is placed over the container. And to make things super easy, this rhinestone trim is also self-adhesive. The trim itself is very flexible, so it is very easy for it to conform to the shape of the container. And while I work on applying this trim, I would like to take a moment to thank you for tuning in to today's craft project. If you enjoy glam home decor and DIY crafts on a budget, please let me know by hitting that subscribe button. And if you like what you see today, please give me a thumbs up as well so YouTube will continue to recommend my channel to other viewers like you. So see how this container already looks so much prettier? The container is completely covered now with beautiful mirrors and rhinestone gems. Of course, we still need to work on the lid, but by the time we're done with this container and the lid, no one will recognize it and no one will realize it used to be a cookie tin container because it will be all glammed up and blinged out. Now for our next step though, I'm going to turn the container over upside down because I want to build out some legs for this container just to give it a bit of height. I have a bag of these beautiful diamond shaped acrylic gems from the Dollarama. These are slightly larger than what you would normally find at the Dollar Tree, but if that's all you have, those smaller ones from the Dollar Tree will do just fine. Or you can also check my links down in the description box for alternative options. So what I want to do is place four of these gems to the bottom of the container. But to do that, I'm going to need the help of some caps, which I removed and saved from some leftover Christmas ornament balls. I have gold ones too, but today I'm going to use the silver ones. And to make sure that the caps adhere firmly onto the bottom of the tin container, I have pre-cut four small pieces of cardboard and I'm placing them roughly equidistant from each other. Then I'm going to apply some hot glue to affix each of them onto the bottom of the tin container. Now, to create our legs, I'm going to apply a small amount of hot glue into the outer opening of each cap like so. Then we'll take one of the diamond-shaped acrylic gems and insert the pointy end into the ornament cap like so. And I'll continue to make these legs until I have a total of four legs. But I'll share a little tip with you. If you don't have the same materials as I do, or you just don't want to bother making the legs yourself, you can simply grab four crystal cabinet doorknobs and use those as legs instead. It's a little faster and may even look a little bit prettier. But for my container, I'm going to go ahead and go all out with making these custom legs. And while I do that, comment down below with the words tin container. And let me know if you have ever made custom legs like this for a container or for a tray. And if you have, did you make yours like mine or did you use other materials to make your legs? So now that I have four legs made, I'm going to set them onto the little pieces of cardboard. And the reason why I put the cardboard down is because the little ornament caps will stick to the cardboard pieces much more firmly than if I just hot glued them directly onto the tin container. Okay, so I've got all four legs secured to the bottom of the container, and because I used hot glue to affix them, the hot glue has already cooled and dried, so we can turn this container over and they won't even fall off. But now let's turn over our attention to the lid. I have this round black framed mirror I found at the Dollar Tree that we're going to dress up before we place it onto the top of the lid. And for design consistency, I'm going to use the same rhinestone trim we used earlier on the container and apply a strip of it to the inner sides of the frame like so. You can see I'm trying to be careful to apply the trim so that the bottom of the trim is flush up against the mirror so there are no gaps between the mirror and the frame. Once that's done, I'm going to continue to embellish the rest of the frame so that by the time we're done, this entire frame will be silver. Now, with the inner sides of the frame done, we're going to move on to the outer sides of the frame, which will also be embellished with the same rhinestone trim. And here I've already cut the number of rows that it will need, and I'll continue to work on this, and then I'm going to come back and show you how I'm going to cover the top of the frame so that it becomes a beautiful metallic shiny silver color. Okay, so here's what the mirror looks like so far. Not too bad, but I still need to cover the rest of the black frame. And to do that, I'm going to apply a liquid chrome paint marker in silver. See how it glides onto the frame so easily and quickly? And this paint marker is going to dry with a very pretty mirror reflective finish. It will take a few hours for it to dry fully, but it will be permanent. So I'll finish this up and then I'll come back to show you the results. In the meantime, comment down below with the words tin container and let me know if you have ever upcycled a cookie tin container like this before. And if you have, I would be curious to know what you have made with your tin containers. For me, you'll find many craft tutorials on my channel where I have made over several tin containers into flower boxes, flower pots, jewelry boxes, keepsake boxes, and I have even converted some lids into the most beautiful trays. When crafting with tin containers and even tin cans, the options are endless. Okay, so we've got the whole top of the frame painted, and this is what it looks like now. We still need to leave it for several hours to fully dry, but take a look at how shiny and beautiful it is. In fact, I can barely recognize it because this dollar store mirror has completely transformed. So while we wait for the frame to dry, let's go ahead and work on this lid. I'm going to be covering the sides of the lid as well as the top of the lid until all of the original coloring and branding of the lid is completely covered. First, I'm going to take a single roll of the rhinestone trim we used earlier on the framed mirror, and we're going to peel away the wax backing and place the trim onto the container right along the sides. We want the trim to be completely flush to the very edge of the lid, like so. And using this trim on the sides of this lid actually serves multiple purposes. First, from a design perspective, it will provide a consistent look and feel to the rest of the container. But you'll also see very shortly why I only chose a single row of this beautiful rhinestone trim rather than covering the entire sides of the lid with this trim. Of course, you could do that as well, and the lid would look absolutely beautiful. But for my lid, I wanted to change up the design a tiny bit. And what I have in mind for the rest of the sides of the lid won't leave any room for any more trim. Okay, so the trim is done, and now I want to show you these glass gem tiles. They come in rows of three, are very flexible, and they can be easily cut to size. So for this lid, I'll need only one single row, so I'll go ahead and cut that out. And by the way, these are real glass gems, so the facets on the gems are going to make our lid look extra elegant and beautiful. And to adhere these glass gem tiles, we won't need any glue because as you can see, these are self-adhesive and quite sticky. And take a look at that with the single row of rhinestone trim. These glass gem tiles are perfectly sized for the rest of the lid. I can't get over how pretty this looks already. Every time I use these glass gem tiles for my crafts, they really upscale each home decor piece I'm making. Okay, so with the sides of the lid done, we can now focus on the rest of the lid. So earlier I mentioned that I was going to place the mirror we embellished on the top of the lid. But before we do that, I'm going to do a little further painting with the outer edges of this lid. That's because the frame mirror we embellished earlier is slightly smaller than the size of this lid, so any exposed areas of this lid will also have to be painted to cover up the original colors of the lid. To do that, I'm going to apply the liquid chrome paint marker to the outer edges of the lid, but contrary to what you might think, I'm not going to paint it silver. In fact, to provide a subtle bit of color contrast, I'm going to go for this metallic gold color instead. And if you have watched some of my recent craft tutorials from this year, you'll already know that this year has been all about introducing bits of gold here and there into my otherwise silver palette for a beautiful pop of color. From a design perspective, the gold actually helps break up the monotone silver and white decor that I have been gravitating towards for years. In fact, let me know down below in the comments whether you're more of a silver girl, a golden girl, or if you enjoy mixing bits of silver and gold together like I have been doing all year this year. See how vibrant this gold is, and it actually gives this lid a really cool golden metallic look. Now, to cover up the seams here between the glass gems and the lid, I'm going to apply my trademark silver beads from Dollar Tree. Many of you familiar with my crafts already know that I like to use these silver beads as embellishments to dress up my home decor crafts because they have a beautiful mirror-like finish. And plus, they're so lightweight and so easy to work with. A tiny bit of hot glue is all you need to do to adhere the beads, and then those seams will be completely covered. What do you guys think? Do you like the beads too? And for those golden girls out there, I've got good news for you because these beads are also available in gold. Although personally, I do find the gold beads are a little bit bright and too yellow for my own preference. So, check this lid out. It's looking pretty nice and it even has a bit of weight to it because of the glass gems we placed on the sides. So it's the next day, and this mirror is completely dry. The entire frame is adorned in beautiful silver. We've got the rhinestone trim and we've got the beautiful metallic silver paint. We could actually hang this mirror up on the wall, but we're not going to do that today. I'm actually going to flip this mirror upside down so we can prep the underside and get it ready to place on top of the lid. See how this mirror has a metallic hook? I'm actually going to remove it since we're not going to use it to hang the mirror on the wall. By removing the hook, it will allow this mirror to lay perfectly flat onto the center of our lid. And with a gentle tug, the hook can be removed very easily. Now, since the lid has a slight depression in the center, I'm going to level things up by adding a few pieces of thin cardboard onto the lid. That way, when we glue down the lid, there will be no gaps between the mirror and the lid to contend with. To test that out, I'm just going to place one piece of this thin cardboard onto the lid. I won't glue it down or anything. And then I'm going to place the mirror on top of the lid and shake it a few times. If the cardboard stays in place, that means there is no gap and we can go ahead and glue the mirror down onto the lid with the cardboard piece. So as you can see, the cardboard did not budge. So we're good to go. If it had moved, that means the cardboard was too thin and I would simply cut more pieces and stack them up to make each piece thicker. But fortunately, we won't have to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and apply some hot glue to each cardboard piece and then affix each piece onto the lid approximately equidistant from each other. And to adhere the mirror to the lid, I want to make sure I have a very firm hold, so I'm going to use a combination of Fix-All and hot glue. The Fix-All is actually like a super glue, so it's extremely strong and will provide a long-lasting hold, although it does take several hours to fully cure. But the hot glue, although it may not offer as long of a hold as super glue, it will cool and dry immediately, so I can start using my new storage container right away if I wanted to. Okay, so take a look at that. This lid is so gorgeous. It has completely transformed itself with the bling and the metallic colors. And in fact, I really love the golden accent color I added. The lid fits perfectly back onto the container, and the whole thing looks like a complete set. And here's the final look of the made over tin container, all blinged out and glammed up. I have this sitting on a shelf alongside a few of my other DIY home decor crafts. It's somewhat of a showpiece now, but it's fully functional because of all of the storage inside. The mirror on the lid actually provides a beautiful platform for placing an LED candle, a few pieces of jewelry, maybe some perfume bottles, or it can be left clear of trinkets so that the lid can be quickly and easily removed to reveal the treasures stored inside. I think I'm actually going to move this to my vanity table and store all my bottles of nail polish and manicure supplies because one day I hope to get back into glamming up my nails. Comment down below and let me know what you would use for this beautiful storage container. Your suggestions are all welcome. In the meantime, I have a second makeover I want to show you. Here I have an empty Ferrero Rocher chocolate box. And for those of you loyal viewers who have already seen me craft with these chocolate boxes, this one was donated to me, already empty. So I did not get to enjoy the chocolate treats in this particular box. But I will show you how I'm going to quickly remove the labels off this lid so we can transform this box into the most beautiful, one of a kind keepsake box to store jewelry or other treasured items. So here I have already placed a piece of packing tape to the underside of the lid. Make sure if you're going to craft with a similar Ferrero Rocher chocolate box that you flip the lid over because the label will only come off if you place the packing tape on the underside of the lid. Some of you left me comments that you weren't able to remove the label using this method, but I wonder if it's because you didn't place the packing tape on the correct side of the lid. So please double check and feel free to let me know in the comments section. The second tip to making sure the label gets removed is to apply heat to this packing tape. To do that, all I was doing was using my fingers and gently rubbing the packing tape. And within a few seconds, you should be able to feel some warmth created due to the friction between your fingers and the lid. And then just keep doing that for about 20 to 30 seconds, and then take one corner of the tape and start lifting it up. And you just saw that I did that, and now the label is almost completely removed from the lid. So I'll just repeat that for a few more times until the entire label is removed. Now, if you don't want you to use your fingers or hands to create the heat in order to get the label lifted off onto the packing tape, comment down below to ask me for another easy method and I'll reply back to you with that other method. Next, what I want to do is attach the lid to the box with a few hinges. These hinges that I'm going to use are small and often used to make jewelry boxes, so they'll be perfect for this box. Now, normally you'll only install two hinges and that will probably be sufficient, but for my box, I'm going to be extra careful and install three or four hinges just for that extra security. And when placing the hinges down onto the side of the box and lid, you want to make sure you place the hinge with the ribbing facing upwards so that the lid will be able to open and shut properly. And each hinge comes with four tiny little screws, so I'm going to go ahead and grab those as well. So what I'm going to do first is stand the box out first and start hot gluing one half of each hinge to the box like so. And by the way, I ended up changing out the white craft paper I laid down on my crafting table and replaced it with a black foam board so you guys can see better what I'm doing. Some of you have left me comments in the past saying it's difficult to see what I'm doing when I'm working with light colors because of the white background. So I'm hoping this helps. And by the way, I did decide to go with three hinges instead because I thought four was just a little bit much. So the next step I'm going to do is hot glue the other half of each hinge onto the lid. And in case you're wondering why I'm hot gluing these hinges to begin with, it's actually to temporarily hold down the hinges before I insert the screws. Otherwise, the hinges being so small would be very difficult to stay in place while I insert the screws. So now we're ready to insert the screws. What I'm going to do is use the tip of my hot glue gun to pierce a hole into each screw hole before inserting the screws. And you'll know when you've pierced a hole because you'll feel the tip of the glue gun sink in all of a sudden. But sometimes it will take a bit of effort before the hole forms, so be patient and work slowly if you have to. Once the hole is created, you can then insert the screws in. I find that sometimes the screws go in very easily, but sometimes I need the help of a mini screwdriver as well to drive the screws in. Once all the screws are in, test your lid out to make sure you can lift it open and shut. Now, when you open the box, you'll see the screws sticking out and they're going to be pointy and sharp, so be careful. What we're going to do is we're going to cover those screws up, not only because they're not very pretty to look at, but also because we don't want them poking us when we reach inside the box later. So to do that, I have some scrap pieces of foam board that I'm going to measure out and cut to size. Once they're cut to size, insert them inside and push them in so the pointy end of the nail pierces through the foam board. The foam board you use should be thick enough that the screw should not poke through the other side of the foam board, though. And for your information, the foam board that I'm using is just the pieces that I found at the Dollar Tree. Next, do the same thing with the second piece of foam board to cover up the other ends of the screws. Now I'm going to test the lid again and make sure it can open and shut properly. And we want to make sure the foam board pieces are not too tall that they interfere with the opening and shutting of the lid. Now, you're probably thinking, but those foam board pieces are so ugly to look at. Well, you're right. So I'm going to cover them up with this puffy self-adhesive trim piece that I have already cut to size. It's got a little bit of padding, so it will offer extra protection against those sharp screw tips if you're using a foam board that is a little bit on the thin side. I'll go ahead and apply a strip and apply one to each of the foam board pieces. The lid still works, so that's good. And now the foam board is dressed up and not so ugly. Now I'm going to focus on embellishments for the inside of the box. I have these pearl trims that I got a long time ago, and I never knew what I would do with them, but today we're going to paint a couple of strips of them and place them inside the box. Remember earlier I used some liquid chrome paint markers for the first box we made over? Well, this is a copper finish that I'm applying to the pearls. And in fact, this is the very first time I will be applying a chrome finish to one of my home decor crafts. So this is sort of history in its making. I actually don't have a single piece of copper anything in my collection of home decor pieces, so it will be interesting to see how this one turns out. In fact, comment down below and let me know if any of you out there are bronze girls or even rose gold for that matter, because I kind of think this kind of looks a little bit like rose gold. Now, before I lay those painted strips of pearls down, I'm actually going to lay this mirror tile down in the center first. And by the way, this mirror tile is made of acrylic, so it's not real glass, which means I can bend it and I can even cut it if I want to. And you'll see later, once I pull the plastic film off, what it really looks like. Okay, so with the mirror laid down, now I'm going to place the painted pearls down on one on each side, just to make sure everything fits into place before I glue everything down. And to adhere the mirror tile to the box, I'll have to apply glue since this one is not self-adhesive. I've chosen this tacky glue I found at the Dollar Tree. This tacky glue is kind of an all purpose glue, and because it's on the thicker side, it will dry faster than regular glue, although not as fast as hot glue. And by the way, in case you're curious why I'm not using hot glue for this, it's because hot glue tends to dry in hard clumps when applied to plastic, and I really want to make sure this mirror lays as flat as possible against the bottom of the box. Now, when applying the tacky glue, I'm also making sure that I don't apply any glue too close to the edges of the mirror because I really don't want any excess glue to start oozing out the sides. Next, I'm going to use the same glue to affix the painted pearl trims to the box. And in case I didn't mention it, this tacky glue is supposed to dry clear, so when it's fully dry, we shouldn't be able to see any white glue in between the pearls. Also, I may have forgotten to mention that these pearl trims have a flat bottom, which is why it's so easy to place them down onto the box. Okay, so while we let that dry and set, I'm going to start building out some legs for this box. I have some leftover Christmas ornament balls that I'm going to turn into fancy legs for our keepsake box. These ornament balls are silver, which doesn't really match the pearl beads we just painted, so I'm actually going to use the same liquid chrome paint marker and paint these copper. And while I do that, comment down below with the words box and let me know if you have ever made a Ferrero Rocher box over before or any chocolate box for that matter. And if you have, how did you make it over and what do you use for the box now? For me, you'll see tons of Ferrero Rocher box crafts on my channel. I have lots of craft tutorials where I transform these boxes into jewelry boxes, storage containers, mirrored trays, and even tiered trays. I think crafting with these chocolate boxes are so much fun and the possibilities are endless. Okay, so I left the ornament balls to dry for a few hours and this is what they look like now. I didn't bother painting the caps because we're actually going to remove them. Once the caps are all removed, I'm going to go back in with some scissors to snip off the little tips from each ornament ball. You'll be left with a small hole for each ball that looks like this, which is going to be perfect. For the next step in making the custom legs, I have a bag of these diamond-shaped acrylic gems from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to grab four of these and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. We're going to take one of the ornament balls and apply a bit of hot glue to the opening of the hole we created earlier. Then we'll take one of the diamond-shaped acrylic gems and insert the pointy end into the hole like so. Make sure the gem goes in straight because we don't want our legs to be lopsided. You'll only have a few seconds to make any adjustments before the hot glue will set. And this is what the leg should look like. And then I'll repeat the same steps until I have all four legs. So here I've already turned the box upside down so we can attach the legs to the bottom of the box. I'm placing one on each corner of the box. And notice how I'm placing the legs to the outer edge as much as possible. That's because I want to make sure the legs are going to be visible when this box is sitting on the table. If I place the legs too far in, no one would be able to see them. Okay, so let's turn this box over because now we're ready to embellish the top of the lid. To do that, I have this mirror I found at the Dollar Tree. The frame looks like a flower, but we're going to go ahead and transform the black frame into a copper frame by painting it with the same liquid chrome marker we used earlier on the pearl beads. When painting the frame, I'm being careful to get every spot possible on the frame, including the difficult to reach corners, nooks, and crannies. And here's what the frame looks like now. It's looking so pretty. Now, you'll notice that I left the sides alone because I'm going to adorn the sides with a strip of the rhinestone trim that we used on our first tin container from earlier. You can see how versatile this rhinestone trim is. It can be cut to size and it's flexible, it's self adhesive, and most importantly, it's an absolutely gorgeous embellishment to adorn on any home decor craft. So the front part of this mirror is pretty much done. And in fact, I ended up painting most of the underside of this mirror as well, because after all, the box lid is clear and see-through, and I don't have any plans to paint it. So I wanted to make sure that when we open the lid that we have something pretty to look at on the other side of the lid. But we are left with the black center, which I left blank because we're going to glue this part of the frame to the lid. Now, to do that, I first cut out a piece of cardboard to fit into the center. Once I have checked that it fits properly into the space, I'll affix it to the back of the mirror with a bit of hot glue. Next, I'll apply some Fix-All as well as a bit of hot glue to the cardboard before adhering the mirror to the top of the lid. Here I'm positioning the mirror to the center of the lid, but notice how I'm allowing one of the swirly petals hang over the lid. That's being done on purpose because I can use that as a handle to help me open and shut the lid later. Now, it hasn't been long since I have affixed the mirror to the lid, so I'm going to be very careful when lifting the lid open. What I want to show you is the other side of the lid. See how you can clearly see through the lid? Well, we definitely want to cover up the messy glue applied to the back of the mirror, so I'm going to stick this round mirror here to cover things up. Now, this mirror is actually larger than what I would like, but it's really all I got, so we'll have to make do. And if you have a pretty sticker or a nice picture instead you want to use, you can do that as well. I think that would be a great idea. But for me, I'm going to use this mirror and at least it's going to be functional. And in fact, this one is also made of acrylic, so it's very lightweight and it's also self adhesive. So I'll just peel away the wax backing and place it in the center, making sure it completely covers the glue that you can see from the back of the mirror. And now I'm going to peel away the plastic film from each of these mirrors so you can see how glass-like these mirrors look. Isn't that incredible? You can see everything reflecting against these acrylic mirrors. And the best part is because they're not made of glass, they're extremely lightweight. And before you guys ask again, yes, I will have links to these acrylic mirrors down in the description box. They've actually become one of my most favorite crafting tools to use in my home decor crafts. So now I want to show you what the front of the lid looks like. See how a bit of the back of the mirror is peeking through the flower petals? Well, I'm going to cover that up. I'm going to apply some clear flat back gems onto the lid, which will also bling out this box even more. All I'm doing here is applying a bit of tacky glue, and then I'll use my gem picker tool to pick and apply each gem individually onto the lid. I'll keep doing that until you can no longer see the back of the acrylic mirror. And just as a reminder, because I know some of you are going to ask me again, I do have a link to this gem picker tool along with all my other favorite crafting tools down below in the description box. So check it out if you want to get one for your own crafts. Okay, so as a final embellishment, I decided to go back in and cover up the dark seams between the mirror and the frame because I can still see a bit of the black frame right at the edges. So I'll take a couple of rows of the rhinestone trim we used earlier and apply it flush to the mirror so the gap closes up. Adding this trim will also add a bit more bling and design detail to this box because other than the custom made legs, the painted frame and the embellishments inside the box, I'm actually going to leave the rest of the box as is. The idea is to keep it see-through as much as possible because I want to be able to see both the mirror as well as the matching copper painted pearls inside. And by the way, I'll also add a couple of rows of the same rhinestone trim to hide the foam pieces that can be seen through the lid. And with that done, here's the final look for our made over Ferrero Rocher chocolate box, complete with custom made copper legs and matching copper frame, embellished with beautiful rhinestones. Open the lid, and you are welcomed by two beautiful mirrors and copper painted pearls. Comment down below with the word box and let me know what you think. Also, let me know which box makeover from today you like the best, the silver mirrored cookie tin container or the copper mirrored Ferrero Rocher chocolate box. And if you enjoyed today's craft tutorial, please like and subscribe to my channel and share with other creative gems. Also, remember to hit the notification bell so you can be notified every time I have another DIY glam project on my channel.